how's everyone doing? Good, I hope. Today I am reviewing the latest fragrance to come from Chanel. The first fragrance in 15 years, apparently. I mean, of course, they have released tons of Les exclusives, 10, 15 even. And yeah, some of those are really great, especially Coromandel. Oh, it's so close to my heart. But this is the first one to be added to their regular line, I guess you could call it. The ones where you can fit in Allure, Coco, Mademoiselle, Chance, etc, etc. I think Chance was the last one to be released. So this was released a couple of months ago, 2 months ago I think, and it's time for me to review it. But first I need to say thank you to Peter Kokorin. Please tell me if I've pronounced that right, Peter. Because I just don't know, I never know if I've pronounced it right. For sending me some of this, I tried to get my hands on a sample, etc, etc, and couldn't. Anyway, so this fragrance came out this year. It is a floral fragrance and it is called Gabrielle. So the bottle I think is quite cool. I think it's different, slightly different. I think it's probably it's got the most design out of any Chanel bottle. I've always loved the simplistic beauty of Chanel bottles. This one is, well, you can see it here anyway, but it's got 4 flowers in it, which is supposed to be represented by each corner of the bottle that go into this central menagerie. You can only imagine the hype that's been surrounding this, or the expectation that has been surrounding it. Chanel, you know, synonymous with luxury. Everybody is really interested in their fragrances. Well, not everybody, that is really dumb, not everybody. But I think when a new Chanel fragrance comes out, there are some real die-hard fans out there that really want to go and smell it super fast, and I was one of them. I'm not a super fan, but was interested to smell their stuff straight away. Anyway, let's go through the notes. So the top notes are grapefruit, mandarin and blackcurrant. The heart notes are the 4 flowers, tuberose, ylang ylang, jasmine and orange blossom. And the base notes are musk and sandalwood. So I've worn this a couple of times. It's on my hand already, but I'm just going to quickly refresh it. I love it on Chanel's website. It says, please apply with a deliberate and generous amount. I got you, Chanel. You want us to use it fast so we buy more, right? Yeah, I got you. So Olivier Polge created this. He wanted it to be created so it smelled like a fantasy flower. I actually think that it falls flat in that department. There are pluses and there are positives, which I'll go through with you now. But first I'm going to tell you how it smells. So I was immediately refreshed when I smelled this. This is definitely a spring-like floral. You have lots of citruses at the front. Well, not lots of citruses, but a lot of citrus. You have tons of grapefruit coming out at you, and it feels very much like a spring fragrance. I feel like it has some sort of effervescence going on. It's one of those ones that makes you feel kind of clean and fresh when you wear it. And the downside of the way it smells, when I first smelled it, was I have smelled this before, and I think that's where a lot of disappointment is coming from people, because I've read a lot of bad reviews. People are quite a bit meh about it, and the thing is, you have to remember, Chanel aren't going to make a super weird or groundbreaking fragrance. They, like I said, are synonymous with luxury. They create wearable, beautiful fragrances. And this is that. It is wearable, it is beautiful, but I've smelled it a million times before, and I think that's where it kind of falls down a little bit. There is no fantasy flower. I think if you're going to create a fragrance out of 4 flowers, don't use the 4 most common flowers that there are, bar rose. I think that's where it's a little bit iffy. I think you'd have to be a super master perfumer to be able to create an entirely new and unsmelled fantasy flower out of the 4 main flowers that are used in fragrances. Well, the 4 most common, I think. Do you understand what I mean? Think of the realms of Pleasures by Estee Lauder. Think of the realms of Romance by Ralph Lauren. It's that type of fresh, almost green, citrusy type of floral. It kind of wears very lightly when you put it on your skin. And it's pretty. I mean, I'll give it that. I don't hate it. I think it's a very nice smelling fragrance, but I think the expectation levels of a lot of people, myself included, wanted a bit of Chanel magic, and I think that this has that missing. You know, when you smell things like Allure or Coco or Chance or even Coromandel, which is my favourite, there's that certain je ne sais quoi that Chanel fragrances have that you just can't put your finger on, but it just feels Chanel-esque, and it's got that little bit of Chanel magic. I think this is kind of missing that a little bit because it just feels quite simplistic, quite stripped back, and it actually reminds me of some of the older Dior fragrances like Diorella and Diorissimo, where they've just made a very simple but effective floral that works. It's not groundbreaking, and with Chanel, I don't think they probably meant to go for that. I think they just wanted to create something pretty. So the notes that show through the most, like I said, grapefruit. There's a lot of citrus. Blackcurrant, I don't feel at all. I think also if you're gonna claim to make a fragrance that has 4 corners with 4 flowers, at least let all of them show. I don't smell tuberose at all. This is the fresher florals. This is the jasmine. And it almost kind of smells like lilies to me rather than orange blossom, which is really strange. I love orange blossom, but this kind of smells like lily jasmine, the fresher side of both of those flowers. That's what it smells like to me. There is an elegance, I'm not gonna lie. It's not a kind of go out at night dressed up in your best clothes kind of elegance. It's like a daytime spring kind of elegance. Yeah. It's really tough because I like the smell of it, but because I've smelled it so many times before, I can't love it, basically. And this is a very personal review here. I'm giving you my personal opinion on it. But the technical side of it is just a very spring-like citrusy floral. Grapefruit, lilies, even though they're not in there, and jasmine kind of smelling. It's very simple. There are other things out there that are half the price that smell better, I think. Would I buy this? Would I pay the Chanel price for it? Unfortunately not. Soz Chanel. I'll stick to my Coromandel, thanks. It's also quite a very linear fragrance. The citrus stays throughout. I can smell the citruses all the way down into the dry down, which I think is quite clever because citruses, you know, they're hard to make stay in a fragrance. They're usually top notes that disappear and make way for something else to kind of shine through. But this, because the amount of grapefruit that's in here, it also kind of smells a little bit like bergamot to me, which is kind of like a kind of greenish lemon sort of smell. And I can get both of those things with a fresher side of jasmine and lilies, and that's pretty much all I can say about it, guys. I mean, it is really lovely. It does refresh your senses, which is really nice. And I think wearing a lot of this in spring would be lovely, definitely. I think it would elevate you a little bit, make you feel a little bit like, ooh, I'm going to prance now. So the main punch of the fragrance that you get when you first spray it, which is quite an attack on the senses, in a good way though, with the freshness and everything, that doesn't stay like that for hours and hours and hours. I do feel like Chanel quality has gone down a little bit, sorry to say, and I think this is a medium wear length fragrance for sure. I feel like it projects really strongly for the first half an hour, and then after that it's gonna be one of those kind of slightly wafty, oh, you smell like flowers kind of thing. After about 6, maybe 7 hours, I can't smell it anymore, and I think, you know, that's the way fragrance is now. A lot of fragrances are like that. It's just the way of the world. We have to just deal with it, I think. But that's it, guys. That's my review of Gabrielle Chanel. I'm out on my note. Click my logo down there to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon for another video. Really soon. Okay, bye.